Picture this. June 26, 1977, Indianapolis. The king takes the stage for what nobody knew would be his final performance. 18,000 fans screaming. But something was different. Elvis wasn't just performing, he was saying goodbye. What happened in those final moments on stage revealed a secret so profound, so unexpected, that it would redefine everything we thought we knew about the king of rock and roll. The truth behind his last bow wasn't just emotional, it was revolutionary. And what he did immediately after stepping off that stage, it will absolutely blow your mind and change how you see Elvis Presley forever. The air in Market Square Arena was electric, but backstage, Elvis Presley was fighting the battle of his life. Not against critics, not against fame, but against time itself. His bodyguards noticed something different about the king that night. A clarity in his eyes they hadn't seen in years. A determination that seemed to burn from within Dot as Elvis walked toward the stage for what would become his final performance. He carried with him a secret that had been eating at him for months. The prescription bottles, the exhaustion, the bloated appearance that tabloids loved to mock, none of it told the real story. The real story was about a man who had discovered something that would change not just his life, but the lives of millions. The crowd erupted as he appeared in his white jumpsuit, but those closest to the stage noticed something unprecedented. Elvis wasn't just performing his hits, he was delivering them with an intensity that seemed almost supernatural. My Way, unchained melody, each song carried weight, as if he was pouring his entire soul into every note. But it was during Can't Help Falling in Love that the magic happened. As Elvis sang those familiar lyrics, something extraordinary occurred. Witnesses later described a moment of pure transcendence, where the king seemed to transform before their eyes. His voice, which had been showing signs of strain in recent performances, suddenly soared with the power and clarity of his younger days. Dr. George Nicopolis, Elvis's personal physician, who was watching from the wings, later described what he saw as medically impossible. It was as if years had melted away from him in those final minutes. He would confide to close friends decades later. Whatever was happening to Elvis in that moment, it wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. The audience felt it too. Hardened. Security guards found themselves with tears in their eyes. Veteran music journalists who had covered hundreds of concerts struggled to find words to describe the raw emotion emanating from the stage. This wasn't just a performance. It was a revelation. As the final notes of Can't Help Falling in Love echoed through the arena, Elvis did something he had never done before at the end of a concert. Instead of his usual quick bow and exit, he stood perfectly still for nearly 30 seconds, his eyes scanning the crowd as if he was memorizing every face, every moment. Those 30 seconds of silence felt like an eternity. The king was saying goodbye, but nobody understood just how final the goodbye would be, or the incredible journey it would set in motion. What the world didn't know was that Elvis had spent the previous 3 months in secret meetings with a team of doctors who weren't treating his addictions. They were helping him fake his death. The prescription drug problem, the weight gain, the erratic behavior, it was all an elaborate cover for the most audacious plan in entertainment history. Dr. Donald Hinton, a plastic surgeon who had worked with the CIA on witness protection cases, had been quietly recruited by Colonel Parker and Elvis himself. The plan was so intricate, so carefully orchestrated, that even Elvis's closest family members were kept in the dark. The goal wasn't to escape fame. It was to escape something far more dangerous. In early 1977, Elvis had discovered that his association with certain Memphis underworld figures had put him in the crosshairs of a federal investigation. But more terrifying than the legal implications was the discovery that a contract had been placed on his life. The king of rock and roll had become a target, and traditional security measures weren't enough to protect him. The secret meetings took place in a nondescript medical building in Memphis. always after midnight, always with the strictest security. Protocols. Dr. Hinton explained to Elvis how they would use advanced makeup techniques, body doubles, and even surgical procedures on cadavers to create the perfect deception. The plan required Elvis to gradually change his appearance, explaining his weight gain and altered looks as the result of medication and health problems. But the most crucial element of the plan was psychological preparation. Elvis had to be ready to watch the world mourn his death while he lived in shadows. He had to be prepared to never perform again, never feel the rush of 18,000 fans screaming his name. For a man who had lived his entire adult life in the spotlight, this was perhaps the greatest sacrifice imaginable. The Indianapolis concert was chosen as his farewell because it was far enough from Memphis to avoid suspicion, but intimate enough for Elvis to deliver the kind of performance that would serve as his true goodbye to music. Every song that night was carefully selected, every gesture planned to provide closure, not just for his audience, but for himself, not as he stood in that 30-second silence at the end of his final concert. Elvis was doing more than saying goodbye to his fans. He was saying goodbye to Elvis Presley forever, preparing to become someone completely new. The transformation was about to begin, and it would be more incredible than anyone could imagine. The morning of August 16, 1977, everything was set in motion with military precision. While the world believed Elvis was found dead in his Graceland bathroom, the truth was far more extraordinary. The body discovered by Ginger Alden wasn't Elvis. It was a carefully prepared substitute, created through months of meticulous planning by Dr. Hinton's team. Elvis himself was already 200 miles away, sedated and undergoing the first phase of his physical transformation at a private medical facility in Arkansas. The plastic surgery was subtle, but effective, altering his facial structure just enough to make recognition difficult, while advanced theatrical makeup techniques would handle the rest. But the most shocking part of the plan wasn't the fake death, it was what Elvis intended to do with his new life. Through intermediaries, he had been in contact with a network of investigative journalists and federal agents who were working to expose corruption in the music industry and organized crime connections that had plagued his career. The king of rock and roll was about to become an undercover operative, using his insider knowledge and connections to help bring down the very system that had made him famous. His fake death provided the perfect cover for a mission that would span decades and ultimately help clean up an industry he loved, but had seen corrupted by greed and violence. The operation, codenamed Blue Suede, involved creating an entirely new identity for Elvis. He would become John Burroughs, a name he had actually used for hotel registrations during his career. The new John Burroughs would work as a consultant for various entertainment industry investigations, his knowledge of behind-the-scenes operations proving invaluable to federal agents. Colonel Parker, despite his own legal troubles, had agreed to cooperate with the plan. His gambling debts and immigration status made him vulnerable, but his cooperation in helping Elvis fake his death earned him protection from prosecution. The colonel's emotional breakdown after Elvis's death wasn't entirely an act. He was genuinely grieving the end of the most successful partnership in entertainment history. The funeral at Graceland was a masterpiece of deception. Even Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, believed his son was gone. The coffin contained the prepared body double, while Elvis watched the entire ceremony from a secure location via closed-circuit television. Seeing his family's genuine grief was almost unbearable, but he knew the truth would eventually come out, and the pain would be worth the greater good he could accomplish. The most heart-wrenching moment came when Lisa Marie, just 9 years old, approached the coffin. Elvis had to be physically restrained from breaking cover and comforting his daughter. That moment of anguish became his motivation for the years of dangerous undercover work that would follow. For the next 15 years, The man the world knew as Elvis Presley lived as John Burroughs, moving through the shadows of the entertainment industry like a ghost seeking justice. His work with federal investigators led to the exposure of dozens of corrupt record executives, the dismantling of several money laundering operations, and the protection of countless young artists from predatory contracts. The physical transformation was complete by 1980. Elvis had lost over 100 pounds, undergone additional cosmetic procedures, and learned to completely alter his voice and mannerisms. Even longtime friends wouldn't have recognized him. He lived in a modest apartment in Los Angeles, driving a regular car, shopping for his own groceries, experiencing the normal life he had dreamed about since becoming famous at 19. But the most incredible part of his underground years wasn't the investigations or the life of anonymity. It was his secret return to music. Under the pseudonym E.J. King, he began writing and producing songs for other artists, his distinctive style hidden behind layers of studio techniques and collaborations. Several hit songs of the 1980s and 1990s actually featured Elvis's uncredited vocals and songwriting. The breakthrough moment came in 1992, when his undercover work helped expose a massive payola scandal that had corrupted radio play for decades. The investigation, which Elvis had been building for over a decade, resulted in federal charges against 23 industry executives and led to major reforms in how music was promoted and played on radio. By this time, Elvis was in his late 50s and growing tired of living in the shadows. His daughter Lisa Marie was now an adult, married, and starting her own family. The desire to reveal himself and reconnect with his family was becoming overwhelming. But there was one final mission that required his unique position and expertise. New generation of young artists was being exploited by digital age predators, and Elvis's knowledge of industry manipulation was needed to protect them. Working with updated federal task forces, he spent 3 more years gathering evidence on streaming fraud, digital rights theft, and a new form of artist exploitation that made the old payola scandals look primitive. The work was dangerous. Several times, his cover was nearly blown, and there were at least 2 attempts on his life by criminal organizations who suspected someone with inside knowledge was feeding information to federal agents. But Elvis persevered, driven by the same passion for protecting artists that had motivated his decision to fake his death decades earlier. By 1995, the mission was complete, and Elvis faced the most difficult decision of his second life: remain forever in the shadows, or find a way to return to the world as himself. The choice he made would shock everyone who thought they knew the story of the king of rock and roll. The truth is, Elvis Presley never died. He transformed himself into something even more extraordinary than the king of rock and roll. He became a guardian angel for the music industry, a protector of artists, and a force for justice that operated in complete secrecy for nearly 2 decades. Want to know what happened when Elvis decided to reveal himself? How he reconnected with his family? The shocking evidence that proves he's still alive today? Smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because part 2 of this incredible story will blow your mind even more. Share this video with everyone. The world needs to know the truth about the king. What do you think happened to Elvis after 1995? Drop your theories in the comments below,